Good evening. I've chose to be a prosecutor. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you have been challenged with a difficult and daunting task. Not because the truth is hard to see, but because this is an extremely sad case. This is a case about decisions. This is a case about the decision that the defendant made 6 months ago, the day the Jones family's life was changed horribly forever. Why was it changed horribly 6 months ago? Because the defendant, Marsha Jones, decided to shoot her husband, Elmer Jones. And when Miss Jones decided to shoot her husband, this was the end result. We have proven each and every element of first-degree murder. What you will receive as jurors, you will receive instructions from the court. The judge's instructions will likely be in this manner. To show first-degree murder, the state must prove that the defendant, Marsha Jones, performed the acts which caused the death of Elmer Jones, and when she did, she intended to kill or do great bodily harm. She knew her acts would cause the death of Elmer Jones, and she knew her acts were a strong probability of death or great bodily harm. These are the elements you need for first-degree murder, which is all we need to prove that she is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. The state does not have to prove motive. We do not have to prove the why. We only have to prove the who, and we only have to prove the what. We do not have to prove why the defendant chose to do these acts. It is not a requirement of the state. There is no doubt that the defendant used her husband's revolver that he used for work at the jail to shoot him twice. The first bullet entered the body in the chest at the left nipple and exited his back at the same level as the entry wound. The second bullet entered the body at the left rib cage just below the armpit and exited below the right armpit. The expert was not able to determine which shot had been fired first. She shot him twice, once in the chest and once in the rib. These shots caused the victim great bodily harm and death. The defendant is claiming self-defense. Elements for self-defense are an unprovoked attack, which threatens imminent injury or death, an objectively reasonable degree of force used in response, and objectively reasonable fear of injury or death. So the defense is going to tell you that her husband came home drunk, but the autopsy report disclosed that the victim's blood contained alcohol in an amount slightly in excess of the state's presumption of intoxication level. Slightly. The defendant says that she shot him after he lunged at her. Yet ballistics evidence shows that the victim was shot from over 3 feet away and not in a lunging position. The defense is going to tell you that the defendant was punched in the stomach by the victim. Yet, when the police arrived later, they didn't notice any bruises. The defense is going to tell you that she was in fear for her life. Yet, when she used deadly force, again, the victim was 3 feet away. The defense is going to tell you that the small, 5'4" inches tall, and weighed about 120 pounds woman, had been beaten before by her husband, who was about 6'2" and weighed about 210 pounds. But there's no proof. No proof. No prior calls to the police. No history of any of this occurring. The defendant admitted that she never called the police, that she never called the police of any earlier threats or beatings. There were telephones in the house. We know that. There was one in the living room. There was one in the bedroom. Yet she never called to report any of this. We don't know if any of what the defendant is saying is true. But what we know is that beyond a reasonable doubt is that Elmer Jones is dead and that the defendant, Marsha Jones, killed him. Ladies and gentlemen, you have seen the evidence. Marsha Jones had the thought. Marsha Jones had the intent. Marsha Jones had the opportunity. And Marsha Jones acted on this opportunity to kill her husband. I'm asking you to follow the law. If you do that, I am confident that you will find the defendant, Marsha Jones, guilty. Thank you.